Russia has to be punished. It has never been punished. All this impunity that they had during these years led to what we have now, and now all Europe is afraid of Russia.
So you think the
But
solution is to get Russia to, I mean, be punished, if I want to use your words.
that's the only solution. Get out of the occupied territories and the change of regime in Russia.
So going straight into it, how do you assess international media coverage of the war today compared to the early days of the invasion? Has global interest waned, and what are the implications?
Thank you, Ismail, for this question. Of course, when we compare the interest to the war in Ukraine in 2022, when actually Russia started this brutal war, unprovoked war in Ukraine, the interest was much higher, and now there is still interest, and there are still. I'm happy to see that there is, the part of the website on almost all international news media that is called War in Ukraine, that they dedicate some part of the content to Ukrainian to the war to the Russian war in Ukraine. But of course, with the as the years go by, people get unfortunately used to this, and they are not so much interested in this topic, even though the media is covering this. But I would say that even in our Ukrainian, in our national media, Hromadske, we even see the numbers dropped. If you look at at YouTube, if you look at the website, so the interest to the topic is not it's not so high. But in any case, when something happens, like the massive attack of Russia all over Ukraine, when there is something really dramatic happening, I see that there is focus and there is more interest. But when there is a stalemate and nothing happens, like no advancements, nothing, so there is unfortunately, less interest to Ukraine and to the Russian war in Ukraine.
Well, many in Africa, Asia, and Latin America have remained neutral or even sympathetic towards Russia, while others see the Ukraine-Russia war through a different geopolitical lens. What key truth or underreported realities do you believe should be better understood?
What should be better understood is that Ukraine has always been, not has always been independent. It was during the Soviet times. It was also under occupation of Russia. It was called Soviet Union. But what should be better understood that Ukraine actually was even earlier. It started its existence, in the world earlier than Moscow and than Russia. So we are this cradle, of this. Not to say civilization, but in this part of the world, Kiev was established much earlier than Moscow, and just the message that should be better communicated is that we have our own history, we have our own culture, and it's not something. This is not Ukraine. Is not Russia. We are different people, or different origin, and that there is nothing like they should just get rid of us and let us live and our normal life, and that Ukraine is not Russia and has never been a part of Russia. That's something that is communicated by Russian regime, Russian imperialistic minds. It should be that we are brothers and sisters, we are the same nation, but we are not, and that has always been so. And just this is something that should be better understood in Latin America, in Africa, in African countries, that it's totally different nation, and we have our own right for our independence and for our culture, for being our nation. That's not Russian.
Mm. We earlier talked about the waning global interest in the invasion. However, how does the Ukrainian civil resistance? How has it been since it's evolved over the time since the full-scale invasion in 2022? How is it like currently with the people in Ukraine?
Thank you, Ismail, for this question. There is the mood in the society hasn't changed. I mean, this is and usually, in Ukraine, when there is a danger and when there is a threat to our like existential threat to our country, we unite and we support each other. We do lots of fundraising. There is a huge culture of donations right now in our country. We support Ukrainian armed forces. We support humanitarian funds. So there is a very strong civil society in Ukraine. That's a big difference of Ukraine even among Western European countries. We are really when there is something wrong happening or some wrongdoings from the government, we are uniting and we do not allow some impunity happening. We are very much focused on our rights, on our existential problems. It even with even before full scale invasion, when we had a revolution of dignity in Ukraine, it happened in 2013, 2014, and when for that moment we had pro-Russian president with pro-Russian views, and he tried to switch our focus from European accession, from European integration into Russian closer ties with Russia. We had this revolution that was not, Ukrainian civil society, Ukrainian people. They came to Maidan. They started this revolution because, and what happened is that he escaped. That former president, he fled the country because he was not able to take this resistance from civil society and from Ukrainian people. And actually, the civil society during the full-scale invasion, it also is very strong. It is united and very supportive and very active.
Well, being on the ground, how are local communities that have suffered within the Eastern Ukrainian shifting of front lines, how are they adapting and resisting occupation in those territories with the recent increase in drone warfare and also the shifting of the front lines?
That's a very interesting and difficult question, I would say, because unfortunately we do not know much about people who are in occupation. They are cut from Ukraine-controlled territories. They are cut from the internet. From even they have internet. They are cut from the pro-Ukrainian media. They are brainwashed. They are fed with the message that Ukrainian government and Ukrainian people do not care about them, that they are forgotten. They need to take Russian passport because they give it left and right. They just want more and more people to be Russians. I know that for sure that all men that are there on occupied territories or by Russia, they are mobilizing them and they make them go and serve for Russian army. So there is a number of Ukrainians who are fighting on the front line now against us, against Ukraine controlled territories. And we have many people who escape from eastern Ukraine to here to central part to western part of Ukraine, and we have internally displaced people, and Ukrainians are very helpful to them. They provide housing. We have some former kind of resorts where people can temporarily live and stay there and have some basic equipment, basic utility, things for living. And we, without any problem, people who are internally displaced, their kids are attending our schools in central Ukraine and western Ukraine. Of course, there are many Ukrainians who leave Ukraine. They mostly go to Germany because Germany has the best. Like services for them, the best conditions. They compensate the expenses for the housing. They provide some children, some assistance for children, the extra money for kids. And in general, they are supportive of any entrepreneurship. If Ukrainian people who are currently in Germany, when they want to start their own businesses, they also are very supportive of that. Yeah, and in Ukraine, the only thing is, that we can anonymously talk to the people who are in the occupation. We can learn how they are doing there, but of course, if we as the media organization are covering this is due to the safety reasons. We do not disclose their names, where they live,
Mm.
what city, what territory, because that's very dangerous. Because we understand that this is there is danger for these people, and yeah, and also we had. Mm, we know that there are some resistance movements in Ukraine, in temporarily Russian controlled territories that are temporarily under occupation. There are, for example, in Crimea, the peninsular Crimea. This is like Black Sea. There are from time to time we can see this, the movements in social media when people declare they are Ukrainians. They post some, yellow ribbon, which means this is support for Ukraine, and they are expressing that they are Ukrainians. And I know even there are some female resistance movements, which is there are several of them, but I know about Zlamavka. Zlamavka is like angry woman. Mavka is the one that lives in the forest.
Oh.
It's like from fairy tale. This is like, it's not real person, but they have the name of this movement, and they are kind of, showing the occupiers that they are not welcome there. Of course, they do it at not, some messages. They are posting something on the fence, on the building, so people would, the occupiers would see they are not welcome. Of course,
Mm.
due to the security reasons, if they are even taking part in some event on the Ukrainian controlled territories, they are not showing their face. They are if we have some recording, we are changing their voice, just because of we don't want them, to be punished for all this, and due to security reason. So I wish we could know more about their daily life, but what we have is what we have, so that's not a lot. And we do not know if people read us in occupied territories, because we do
Mm.
not have the statistics. We can only guess that they read in Donbass or in the south, but there is no proved numbers
Yeah.
how many people read, because there is no statistics, unfortunately.
Yeah. And as a journalist, how do you navigate the balance between national security and press freedom in this hostile environment you find yourself in?
Actually, that's a very interesting also and sensitive question for the journalists in Ukraine. But I would say this: in during the when the full scale war started, all our there was no, um, we kind of, the message was, we are all in the same boat. We should not focus on any issues that would harm us, that would tell more about some maybe corruption schemes, or some things that we would get some criticism from the government, because we are on the same boat. We are,
Mm.
for the unity, for Ukraine, and for the sovereignty. But at some point, the journalists, at some time of during the full scale war, the journalists realized that they have to do their job, and they have to be critical when it's needed. When they have to do investigations when it's there, and they should not be quiet, because they are also, like they say, the silence is complicity. When you keep it silently, you are participant of this, you tolerate that. So we do. There is independent journalism. There is our media Hromadske, which is called, actually, if you translate Hromadske, means civil. Actually,
Yeah.
civil is Hromadske. And there are a couple of other investigative journalism projects that would be that are doing their job, and we think it's for Ukraine's good, because when there is some schemes happening in defense procurement, that's our existential threat. And if we do not disclose, and if we do not do the investigation, then we tolerate, and we are not doing anything good for the country.
On that, what are some of the misinformation or propaganda trends that you've seen intensify in 2025, especially regarding Western support and Ukraine's internal politics?
Well, that's this is there is disinformation. What we have from. I know that Russians, they invest a lot of money into creating a lot of media that is at first sight that might look like normal media organization, but in fact this is pro-Russian propaganda. This media, and they realize the importance of disinformation as the weapon, and they invest a lot of money into creating new media, because many people know Russia Today, they know other Russian propaganda media, but when they create a new one, they think, oh, that's something that people do not know, and they will trust, and it works. And of course, when we see how it now happens with the new administration in America, in the United States, of course, that's very hard to resist the fake news and what to expect from this administration. They already have cut, the USAID, which was not just a big support for the media, but for other organizations in Ukraine. It was all over the place, and they have also now even talking about military support. That's it with the current U.S. administration. That's much easier to do fakes, and for us, it's much harder to debunk, because we also have some, what we are observing that's not very optimistic, and not very it doesn't actually calm us down.
Yeah, and this brings me to my next question, which is on the disinformation trends. And indeed, we've seen disinformation from both sides. But what are the Ukrainian media and civil society doing to counter these narratives domestically and internationally?
Yeah, thanks. There are a couple of organizations that are purely working and focusing on debunking of Russian disinformation in Ukraine. They are, searching for the fake news. They are explaining to the audience why this or that message was a fake. For example, what my philosophy and what I think is that when we create a lot of objective information, a lot of trusted and fact-checked news, we are in this way debunking disinformation. So the more objective and trusted news is circulating all around, the less the chance for Russians to sneak with their propaganda. So that leads us to the fact that there should be independent media in Ukraine, in Ghana, everywhere. You have to produce as much high quality content, as much of fact checked news, so disinformation would not have any chance.
Mm.
And of course, the high media literacy in the country. So this is something that we need to focus on: media literacy, objective news, and a lot of trusted information. And then the fake news would be not so hard to debunk.
Yeah. And with the shift in US approach and shifts in European leadership, how are Ukrainians preparing for potential changes in international support?
Oh, this is, we have there is a huge tension now in the region, and it's not even connected with the change of the leadership in some countries. It is also connected with the threat from Russia. And I would tell you that Baltic countries like Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, they are preparing for the war now. These Baltic countries, and even, there should Ukraine should not fail in order for Russians to start invading Baltic countries. And this is something that we as Ukrainians and our government try to deliver from the very beginning, that Ukraine is just a start for all for Russia. And if Ukraine fails, Poland will be next, Baltic countries will be next. But I see the um, anxiety that is happening now in Baltics. I would say they are preparing for war,
Mm.
and this is unfortunately the fact. And I hope that European government will understand that there is real threat.
Yeah. And in your opinion, uh, is election a means to an end to the war for Ukraine? Can another leader drive the country towards a long-lasting truce?
Oh, that's the question. This is also, by the way, a Russian narrative that Zelensky is not a legitimate president. He is legitimate. And according to our law in Ukraine, during the wartime, during the martial law, it is impossible to have elections. And we are, Zelensky is legitimate. I do not think that any other, any pro-Ukrainian leader with a strong pro-Ukrainian position would continue what is happening now, actually. But if we talk about pro-Russian, that's something that Putin wants. He wants to have re-election, and he wants to have pro-Russian president here in Ukraine. Then it would be possible to stop the war immediately.
Mm.
For the person who is not interested in regaining our territories back. So that's that I can see it only with the, like, what the idea is to have. And actually what Trump started for some time. He also started, oh, there should be elections in Ukraine. He wants the person who would be easy to negotiate, and who would be easier to lean towards any um, suggestions for peace that Russia suggests. But Russia is they if there is like freeze now of Russia of the war, and if, for example, even hypothetically, a new leader in Ukraine, there is a new leader who stop the war, this is just a time for Russia to to make more arms, to mobilize more people, and come back in a few years. This is something that is not gonna stop. Um, uh, that this peace will not be for, that's not for, not be trust peace. It's not justice peace. It's just for Russia to reorganize, rearm, remobilize new people, and invade again.
Mm.
Russia has to be punished. It has never been punished. All this impunity that they had during these years led to what we have now, and now all Europe is afraid of Russia. So this is that's the reason they have. If Russia was were so punished as Germany after World War II, it would not be so aggressive.
So you think the
But
solution is to get Russia to, I mean, be punished, if I want to use your words, and for them to
yeah,
just get out of the occupied regions. That's the only solution for Ukraine.
yeah, that's the only solution. Get out of occupied territories and the change of regime in Russia. The
Mm,
change of regime in Russia. That's for sure. It would maybe help.
mm. And finally, what gives you hope in 2025? And what are your greatest concerns, both as a journalist and a Ukrainian citizen?
Oh, we already see that all this the situation that evolves is not very good for Ukraine. We understand that we should rely on ourselves in this brutal war. Of course, the partners are very important, and I hope I do believe that there will be some turning point. And even if European leaders would be very united, there would be some success. But there is a strong Russian presence in Europe now. I mean, even Hungary, Slovakia. These two countries, they are neighboring countries to Ukraine, and they have pro-Russian prime ministers who are very supportive of Russia. So, in my ideal, world, it would be a total unification of Europe, and if even United States stop playing with Russia as with the good guys, they
Mm,
are not good. And so, of course, as all journalists in Ukraine, we would like to have content of the occupation of Crimea, of the occupation of eastern Ukraine, of south of Ukraine. But we'll see if it's realistic. But now we see that there are lots of Russian troops on the north of Ukraine, east of Ukraine. It's where Sumy is, and this is not very very optimistic for us.
So is there anything that gives
So
you hope?
um, yeah, there is only our strong will, Ukrainian will, and our strong and equipped armed forces. This is something that gives me hope. I
Mm,
understand that this is something we have to rely on ourselves.
mm,
Of course, with the partners' support, and also what gives me hope is I think there should be some technical revolution. There is a high development of mill tech now in Ukraine. We are now, all of these big mill tech developments, they are happening here. And I believe that we will create maybe some special kind of drones or laser weapon that would be something very innovative. I am not very good professional in weapons, but I believe that this war is also a chance to have some innovation that would be also a turning point. And this is also about us Ukrainians to develop it.
thank you very much, Alyona.
Thank you, Ismail, for the invitation. It was great to talk to you. Thank you.
Thanks.